The red dot appears before Hannah Park finishes pouring the wine. It settles against the center of Jun Suk Kang's chest, steady, unnatural against the matte black of his suit. For a fraction of a second, it almost looks decorative, like a reflection, like something that belongs. But it doesn't move with the light. Hannah's hand stops midair. The bottle tilts slightly, a thin line of red slipping over the rim, but she doesn't notice the spill. The room around her continues exactly as it should. Soft conversation, cutlery against porcelain, the low hum of wealth pretending nothing sharp ever happens inside it. No one else sees it. That's what makes it wrong. Her eyes flick once, not to the man but past him. Glass wall. City lights of Gangnam stretching outward. Reflections layered over reflections. There. A flicker that doesn't belong to the room. Not a person. Not movement. Position. Angle. Her grip tightens around the neck of the bottle. Jun Suk is saying something to the man across from him, his voice calm, controlled. He hasn't noticed anything yet. Why would he? Men like him don't look for danger. They expect it to announce itself. The dot shifts barely, not drifting, adjusting, tracking. Hannah's pulse doesn't spike. It compresses. Her mind moves faster than the room. Distance, elevation, reflection, line of sight. It aligns too cleanly. This isn't chance. This is placement. She sets the bottle down too hard. The base hits the table with a sharp, out-of-place sound. Jun Suk's eyes flick toward her, not alarmed, just briefly irritated. That half-second is all she has. Her hand snaps forward, grabbing his collar. The fabric folds under her grip, expensive and resistant. Move. It comes out low, almost swallowed by the room. He doesn't react. Confusion registers first. Not fear, not urgency. Just a man interrupted in a place where interruption doesn't happen. The dot steadies again. No more adjustment. Final position. Hannah doesn't wait for understanding. She pulls. Hard. His chair jerks sideways with a violent scrape against the polished floor. The motion is wrong, too sudden, too aggressive for a place like this. The world fractures a second later. The glass behind him explodes inward. A crack tears through the air, sharp, precise, unmistakable. The chair he was sitting in shatters where his chest had been. Fragments scatter across the table. Wine glasses burst. A spray of dark liquid arcs through the air, indistinguishable from blood for a split second. Someone gasps. Someone else screams. But the sound feels distant. Hannah is still holding on to him. Her fingers are locked into his jacket like they belong there. Jun Suk hits the floor hard, dragged with the momentum. His shoulder slams against the edge of the table before he steadies himself. For a moment, he doesn't move. Not because he's stunned, because he's recalculating. Security reacts late and all at once. Chairs scrape violently. Bodies shift. Men in dark suits move toward the perimeter, toward the shattered glass, toward him. But the shot is already gone. Clean. No follow-up. That's wrong, too. Hannah releases her grip slowly, like letting go too fast might undo what just happened. The red dot is gone. So is the illusion of control. Jun Suk rises to one knee, brushing glass from his sleeve with a calm that doesn't match the room. He doesn't look at the window. He doesn't look at the damage. He looks at her, not with gratitude, with focus. You moved before it fired. His voice is even, controlled, but there's something under it now, something sharper. Hannah doesn't answer immediately. Around them, Cheongdam Varelli is unraveling in layers. Guests are being escorted out, quietly, urgently. Staff move faster than they're trained to. Someone is already blocking the view from outside. The room is being reset, not cleaned, controlled. Hannah becomes aware of the sting in her hand. A thin line of blood runs across her knuckle where glass must have caught her. She doesn't remember when. I saw it, she says. It sounds smaller than it should. Jun Suk stands fully now. His jacket hangs slightly off from where she pulled it, but he doesn't fix it. He steps closer, close enough that the noise of the room falls away. What did you see? It's not curiosity. It's assessment. Hannah swallows, but her voice stays steady. Not just the debt. She glances once, past him again, toward the broken glass, toward the skyline beyond. There were two angles. A pause. She can feel it now, the shift. Not in the room. In him. One near the glass, she continues, quieter. One using reflection. The words land heavier than the gunshot, because they don't describe panic. They describe structure. Jun-suk doesn't blink. Behind him, one of the men in a dark suit stops moving entirely. Say that again, he says. Hannah doesn't, because she doesn't need to. He already understands. The shot wasn't just aimed. It was built. And if it was built, then someone inside this room helped make it possible. Silence spreads outward, thin and controlled. The kind that replaces noise, not follows it. Hannah feels it settle on her. Not as attention, as consequence. She looks at Jun-suk again, properly this time. Really looks. At the stillness in his posture. At the way his eyes don't search, don't panic, don't question. They narrow. Not at the window. At her. You didn't react, he says. A beat. You predicted. The word hangs between them. He isn't asking anymore. Hannah doesn't move. Doesn't step back. Doesn't explain. Because explanation would mean time. And something about this moment makes it clear. Time is exactly what they don't have. Behind them, security is already sealing the exits. Phones are being taken. Doors are being closed. No one is leaving. Not yet. Jun-suk's gaze doesn't leave her face. Not even for a second. And in that stillness, something shifts in a way Hannah can't undo. She isn't just the waitress who saw something. She's the one who saw it early. Too early. Which means one thing. She noticed before the system allowed her to. And now, he needs to know how. Jun-suk doesn't look away. Not when the last guest is guided out. Not when the doors to Cheongdam Varelli seal with a muted click. Not even when two of his men step closer to Hannah Park. Close enough that she can feel the heat from their shoulders. You didn't react, he repeats quietly. The word still hangs there. Out of place now. Too visible. I saw the angle, she says. One of the men to her left scoffs under his breath. From where? Hannah doesn't look at him. She keeps her eyes on Jun-suk. From the reflection, she says. Not the glass. The movement behind it. A pause. She can feel resistance in the room. Not disbelief. Worse than that. Evaluation. Jun-suk tilts his head slightly, as if adjusting her position in his mind. Show me. It isn't a suggestion. Hannah turns, slow enough not to trigger anything she doesn't understand yet. The shattered glass wall stretches open to the skyline, jagged edges catching the chandelier light. Beyond it, Gangnam glows, high-rise reflections layered over each other like a grid of false images. She steps closer to the edge, careful where she places her feet. The floor is scattered with glass fragments, crunching softly under her shoes. Don't look out, she says. Look at what's reflecting back. No one moves at first. Then Jun-suk steps beside her. The others follow, reluctantly. Hannah raises her hand, not pointing outward, but slightly downward, toward the lower edge of a remaining panel of glass still intact. There, she says. At first, there's nothing. Just distorted reflections of lights, tables, silhouettes. Then, a faint flicker. Not movement, not light, a shift in alignment. Someone was watching from inside, she says, using the reflection to correct the angle. Silence presses in again. One of the men steps closer, narrowing his eyes. You're saying there were two shooters? No. Hannah shakes her head once. Two positions. One shot. That lands differently. Because it implies coordination. Design. Jun-suk's gaze stays fixed on the glass, but his voice shifts. Continue. Hannah swallows, her throat dry now. The dot moved twice, she says. The first wasn't to aim. It was to confirm alignment. The second, She stops. Her fingers tighten slightly at her side. The second was final. A faint sound escapes someone behind them. Not fear. Recognition. Jun Suk turns his head slightly, just enough to look at her again. How long between adjustments? Hannah answers immediately. Less than 2 seconds. Another pause. This one heavier, because now they're not talking about what happened. They're talking about timing. Precision. Which means whoever did this wasn't reacting either. They were waiting. Jun Suk straightens slowly. Clear the floor, he says. The command moves instantly. Staff disappear. Remaining guests are escorted out faster now, without explanation. The room empties until only a handful of men remain, and Hannah. The doors close again. This time it feels final. Hannah feels it settle in her chest. She isn't leaving with the others. One of the men steps in front of her now, blocking the path she didn't realize she was considering. You stay. It isn't aggressive. It's certain. Hannah doesn't argue, because arguing would assume she has a choice. Jun Suk walks back toward the center table, brushing a shard of glass off the surface with the side of his hand. It falls, hitting the floor with a sharp, isolated sound. He gestures once. Come. Hannah hesitates for half a second, then steps forward. Each step feels louder than it should. The room is too quiet now, too controlled. She stops across from him. Up close, he looks unchanged. No panic, no adrenaline, just calculation, layered under composure. You said 2 positions, he says. 1 inside, 1 outside. Hannah nods. Yes. Then the inside position had access. Not a question. Hannah doesn't answer, because answering would mean confirming something she hasn't fully proven. But silence does it anyway. Jun Suk exhales slowly through his nose. Not frustration. Adjustment. He looks past her, toward the men standing along the edges of the room. Who was assigned this section? A man steps forward immediately. I was. Jun Suk doesn't look at him. Who approved the seating? Another voice. I did. Still, he doesn't turn. Who confirmed the reservation? A third. The answers come too clean, too fast. Hannah feels something shift again, not in what they're saying, in how easily they're saying it. She speaks before she fully decides to. The timing wasn't reactive, she says. Every head turns back to her. Jun Suk's eyes narrow slightly. Explain. Hannah gestures faintly toward the table. You didn't sit down immediately, she says. You paused. You spoke to the man across from you first. Jun Suk's gaze sharpens. You're saying they accounted for that? I'm saying they didn't need to adjust for it, Hannah says. A beat. They already knew. The room goes still. Not quiet still, because that changes everything. That means the timing wasn't just calculated. It was expected. Jun Suk, finally, turns toward the men behind him. Not fully. Just enough. Who knew my arrival time? No one answers immediately. Not because they don't know. Because they all do. Hannah feels it settle deeper now. This isn't a breach. It's a structure. Jun Suk's voice lowers. Answer. For names are spoken. Not at once. One after another. Each one landing heavier than the last. Hannah listens carefully. Not just to the names. To the order. To the hesitation. To the space between each voice. She doesn't recognize any of them. But she doesn't need to. She's not looking for familiarity. She's looking for friction. And there is none. That's what's wrong. Jun Suk nods once, as if confirming something internal. Then he looks back at Hannah. How long, he asks. The question is simple, but it carries weight now. Not about the past. About what comes next. Hannah doesn't rush it. She replays it. Angle, reflection, timing, adjustment. Everything compresses into a single calculation. They won't try the same method again, she says. Jun Suk watches her. So. Hannah meets his gaze. They don't need to. A faint crease forms between his brows. For this to work, she continues, quieter now. They had to test the system first. No one interrupts her, because now they're listening. Fully. This wasn't just to kill you, she says. It was to see what would happen if they missed. The words land differently, heavier, because now failure isn't failure. It's data. Jun-suk's jaw tightens slightly. How long, he repeats. This time, there's no space left in the question. Hannah exhales slowly. Less than 48 hours, she says. Silence. It stretches longer than anything that came before. Not empty, loaded, because now there's a clock, and it's already running. One of the men shifts his weight, just slightly. Another glances toward the door, then quickly back. Jun-suk doesn't move. Then we don't leave this to chance, he says. It's not loud, but it lands like a decision already made. Hannah feels something close around her options. Not physically, structurally, because if they don't leave it to chance, then everything from this point on is deliberate, including her. Jun-suk steps closer again. Not aggressive. Precise. You saw what no one else did, he says. A beat. Which means you're already inside this. Hannah doesn't respond, because she knows what comes next before he says it. You don't walk away from something like this, he adds. Not a threat. A fact. The room feels smaller, tighter, as if the walls themselves are leaning in. Hannah glances once toward the door. Closed, guarded, unreachable in any way that matters. When she looks back at him, the choice is already gone. Not taken. Removed. Jun-suk studies her for a long second, then nods almost to himself. Prepare the car. The order moves instantly. One of the men steps out, phone already in hand. Another begins clearing the table completely now, not for cleanliness, but for reset. Jun-suk doesn't look away from Hannah. You're coming with me, he says. It isn't phrased as a decision. Hannah feels the weight of it settle fully now. Whatever she was before this, it ended the moment she reached for his collar. And there's no version of this where she steps back into it. She nods once. Small. Controlled. But final. The black sedan cuts through Upgyujong in silence. City lights slide across the tinted windows in long, distorted streaks. Hannah sits in the back seat, hands resting in her lap, the faint sting in her knuckle returning now that everything else has slowed. Jun-suk sits beside her, not speaking, not looking at his phone, just present, the kind of presence that doesn't need to assert itself. It simply exists and everything else adjusts around it. Hannah watches the reflections on the glass again, not out of habit, out of necessity, because now every reflection matters, every angle, every absence. You understand what this is, Jun-suk says finally. Hannah doesn't look at him. It wasn't random, she replies. A beat. That makes you a witness, he says. The word lands heavier here, in the enclosed space, with nowhere for it to go. Hannah's fingers tighten slightly. And a target, she says. He doesn't respond, which is the response. The car turns sharply, faster than necessary. Hannah's eyes flick to the front. The driver's hands are steady on the wheel. Too steady. Something about the turn feels wrong. Not the movement, the timing. She leans forward slightly. Why did he turn? No one answers. The driver doesn't react. Jun-suk's gaze shifts, just slightly. Hannah's pulse tightens again. Not panic. Recognition. The route, she starts, then stops. Her eyes lock onto the rearview mirror. A car behind them. Too consistent. Too aligned. They've been following longer than they should. Her voice drops. Who planned this route? Silence. Just for a second. But it's enough. Because she already knows the answer matters more than the question. The car behind them doesn't slow. Doesn't overtake. Just stays. Exactly where it needs to be. Hannah leans back slowly. Her voice is quieter now. For people knew where you were going tonight. Jun-suk doesn't interrupt. She looks at him. Really looks this time. And one of them is still inside your system. The car behind them shifts lanes. Closer. Not aggressively. Deliberately. Hannah's chest tightens, not with fear, with certainty. They didn't miss, she says. A beat. They adjusted. The driver's hands tighten slightly on the wheel, almost unnoticeable, but not to her. Hannah's gaze flicks forward, then back to Jun-suk, her voice barely above a whisper now. They're already trying again. They're already trying again. The words don't settle. They move. Through the car. Through the silence. Through the space between Hannah and Jun-suk like something alive. Jun-suk's eyes shift once. Front mirror. Driver back again. Lose them. The command lands flat. No urgency, which makes it heavier. The driver nods once. Too quickly. His hands adjust on the wheel. Subtle, practiced. But Hannah sees the micro-delay between instruction and execution. A beat too long. The sedan accelerates, engine tightening with a low, controlled growl. Street lights smear across the windows as a Gyujong narrows into tighter lanes, sharper turns. The following car stays. Same distance. Same alignment. No aggression. Just presence. Hannah leans forward again, her palm resting lightly against the back of the front seat. The leather is warm, slightly damp where the driver's shoulder brushes it. You're not trying to lose them, she says quietly. No one answers. The driver's jaw tightens, barely visible in the rearview mirror. Jun-suk doesn't look at Hannah this time. Say it clearly. Hannah's eyes don't leave the mirror. You're maintaining distance, she says, not breaking it. The car takes another turn. Too smooth, too predictable. The city outside begins to thin. Less foot traffic, fewer storefront reflections, longer stretches of uninterrupted road. Controlled. Hannah's stomach tightens. This is an escape. It's routing. Her voice lowers. This is planned. The word hangs, and for a moment, no one breathes. The car slows, not abruptly, deliberately. A side street, narrow, dim, tucked between two glass-heavy office buildings, still lit despite the hour. The kind of place that looks empty until you realize it's not meant to be seen at all. The following car turns in behind them. No hesitation, no deviation. Hannah's pulse steadies, not calm, focused. Stop the car, she says. The driver doesn't. Jun-suk's voice follows softer. Stop. This time the brake engages. The vehicle rolls to a controlled halt. Engine idling. Low. Steady. The second car stops 10 meters behind them. Headlights off. Dark. Waiting. Silence floods the interior. Hannah sits back slowly. Her fingers press into her palm. Grounding. Not fear. Recognition. Because this isn't an attempt. It's a demonstration. Jun-suk opens the door. The night air slides in cool, carrying faint traces of asphalt and distant rain. No voices, no movement. He steps out. Hannah's breath catches for half a second. Then she follows. The pavement is slightly damp beneath her shoes. The city hum feels distant here, like it's been intentionally pushed away. The second car door opens. One figure steps out, alone. No weapon visible. No rush. Just presence. Hannah watches the spacing. The distance. 10 meters. Close enough to act. Far enough to react. Intentional. Everything about this is intentional. Jun-suk doesn't step forward. He waits. The man across from them tilts his head slightly, not in greeting, in measurement. Hannah feels it then. The shift. This isn't about killing him. It's about replacing control. Her chest tightens, not with fear, with clarity. They're not here to finish it, she says, barely above a whisper. Jun-suk doesn't look at her. I know. The man across the street lifts his hand slightly. Not a threat. A signal. The driver inside their car flinches. Small, but real. Hannah's eyes snap toward it. There. That's it. Not the movement. The timing. The driver reacts before the gesture completes. Before it's fully visible. Her voice cuts through the silence. He knew. The word cracks something open. Jun-suk turns. Slowly, not toward the man in the street, toward the driver. The air tightens. The driver freezes. For a second, nothing moves. Then, he bolts. The door flies open, shoes scraping against wet pavement as he runs. Not away from the second car, but toward the side alley. Wrong direction. Too fast. Too certain. Jun-suk doesn't chase. He doesn't need to. Two shadows detach from the darkness behind them, his men already in position. They intercept before the driver makes it 3 steps. A muffled impact. A body hitting the ground. Silence again. Hannah exhales slowly, but it doesn't release anything, because this confirms it, not ends it. The man across the street lowers his hand, satisfied, then steps back, not retreating, withdrawing. His car door closes, engine turns, and just like that, they leave. No shot, no escalation, just proof. Hannah watches the taillights disappear into the dark curve of the street. Her voice is quieter now. They didn't need to shoot. Jun-suk's gaze remains fixed on where the car vanished. No, he says. A beat. They needed to show us the system works. The words land, heavy, because now it's not about one traitor. It's about how long the system's been in place. Hannah turns slightly, watching as the restrained driver is forced to his knees. His breath is uneven, panic breaking through the composure he held seconds ago. Too late. Always too late. Her stomach twists. Not at him. At herself. Because she recognizes the pattern. The delay. The moment between knowing and acting. It flickers. Not memory. Something sharper. A room. Different lighting. A ticking sound. No. A watch. Her fingers twitch. The sensation crawls up her spine. Fast and disorienting. Her vision narrows for half a second. A reflection. A red dot. And she doesn't move. The feeling snaps. Gone. Hannah inhales, sharply, steadying. Jun-suk notices. He doesn't ask. But he sees it. That's worse. Hannah straightens. Forces the present back into place. They tested response time, she says. Positioning. Reaction chain. She looks at the driver. Now they know exactly how fast your system breaks. The man on the ground shakes his head, desperate. I wasn't. Jun-suk raises a hand. Silence. Immediate. Absolute. Hannah watches the driver's face. Not the fear. The gaps. The places where something doesn't align. And then, she sees it. Not in his expression. In what's missing. This isn't the top, she says quietly. Jun-suk's gaze shifts back to her. He's too exposed. A beat. They wouldn't risk the core on something this visible. The implication settles in the air. There are more. Higher. Closer. Hannah feels it then. Not just the threat. The shape of it. This isn't an attack. It's a takeover. Her voice lowers. They're not trying to kill you. Jun-suk watches her. They're trying to replace you. Silence. Deep. Heavy. The kind that presses into bone. Because that means every system, every route, every decision is being mapped, replicated, overwritten. Hannah's mind moves faster now. Patterns aligning. Not random. Never random. Her chest tightens again. That same flicker. The watch. Ticking. A voice she can't place. You waited too long. She blinks hard. The street snaps back into focus. Wet pavement. Dim lights. Controlled breathing. This isn't then. But the feeling doesn't leave. It settles. Deeper. A weight she recognizes now. Not confusion. Guilt. Jun-suk steps closer. Not imposing, but present enough to pull her back fully. You're seeing something, he says. Hannah doesn't deny it. She doesn't explain it either. Because she can't. Not fully. But she can use it. Her voice steadies. We stop reacting, she says. Jun-suk watches her. And Hannah's eyes sharpen. We control what they think they know. A pause. The air shifts again. Not fear. Not confusion. Alignment. She steps forward, slightly closer to him now. They're watching patterns, she says, so we give them new ones. Jun-suk doesn't interrupt, because now she's not observing, she's building. 3 routes, Hannah continues. 3 versions of your next movement. She gestures subtly, mapping it in the air. Each one goes to a different person inside your circle. The restrained driver flinches at the word. Inside. Different times, she adds. Different details. Her gaze locks with Jun-suk's. They won't be able to resist acting on it. A beat. And when they do, she lets the sentence hang. Doesn't finish it, because she doesn't need to. The silence completes it. Jun-suk studies her. Longer this time. Not evaluating. Considering. The shift is subtle, but real. You're volunteering to be part of the pattern, he says. Not a question. Hannah nods once. Yes. There it is. The line. Clear. Irreversible. Because this isn't survival anymore. It's engagement. She feels the cost settle immediately. Heavier than before. Because now, if she's wrong, there's no version of this where she walks away. Jun-suk exhales slowly, then nods. Do it. The decision locks in. The system shifts again, but this time, they're shaping it. Back in the car, the air feels different. Not safer, sharper. The driver's seat is empty now. One of Jun-suk's men takes it. No hesitation. No adjustment. Too smooth. Hannah notices. Of course she does. Her eyes move across the interior. Handle seems reflections. Mapping. Always mapping now. Jun-suk sits beside her again. Closer this time. Not physically. Structurally. 24 hours, he says. The number lands like a compression. The countdown tightens. Hannah nods. Then 12, she replies. He glances at her. Understands. Because once the trap is set, it won't take long. The car starts moving. Different route. Different rhythm. But the feeling hasn't changed. Hannah watches the window again. Her reflection stares back. But for a second, it doesn't match. A flicker. A delay. Like something underneath is trying to surface. Her fingers tighten in her lap. The watch. The ticking. The moment she didn't act. It presses harder now. Not memory. Not fully. But enough. Enough to know. This isn't the first time she's seen something before everyone else. And failed to stop it. Her voice is quieter now. More certain. They'll move fast, she says. Jun-suk nods once. They always do. A beat. Hannah looks at him. Then we make them move faster than they can control. The car turns. Sharp. Intentional. And almost immediately, Jun-suk's phone vibrates. Once. Short. He looks down. The message is already open. No delay. No hesitation. Hannah feels it before he speaks. Something's wrong. Too fast. Way too fast. Jun-suk's gaze hardens. He turns the screen, slightly. Just enough for her to see. One line. Clean. Precise. Route confirmed. Hannah's breath stills. They haven't even distributed the routes yet. Not fully. Not properly. Her voice barely forms. That's... She stops. Because there's only one way that message exists. Only one way it moves that fast. Her eyes lift slowly. Not to the phone. Not to Jun-suk. To the front. To the man now driving. Her pulse tightens. Not fear. Recognition. Because he didn't check the mirror. Not once. He didn't ask for direction. Not once. And his hands. Too steady. Hannah's voice drops to a whisper. Who gave him the route? Silence. Thick. Immediate. The kind that answers everything without saying it. The driver's eyes flick upward. Just for a second. Meeting hers in the mirror. And he smiles. The smile doesn't disappear. It settles. Like it belongs there. Hannah doesn't move. Doesn't speak. Her reflection sits just beneath his in the rearview mirror. 2 faces layered, slightly misaligned in the glass. For a second, it feels like she's looking at the same moment from 2 different times. Jun-suk doesn't ask anything. He already knows. Pull over. The driver obeys immediately. Too clean. Too smooth. The car glides to a stop along a quiet stretch of Upgyujong. Same polished sidewalks, same muted storefront reflections. But now everything feels stripped of its surface, like the city is just a shell for something underneath. The engine idles. No one moves. Then Jun-suk opens the door, steps out. Hannah follows. The air is colder now. Or maybe it just feels that way. The driver stays seated for a second longer than he should. Then he exhales once and steps out too. No attempt to run. No resistance. Just acceptance. That lands harder than anything else. Jun-suk stands a few feet away from him, hands relaxed at his sides. No weapon. No signal. Nothing visible. But everything decided. Who gave it to you? Jun-suk asks. The driver tilts his head slightly. Same gesture as before. Measured. But now it's closer. More human. Not gave, he says. His voice is steady. Almost calm. Built. The word hangs. Hannah feels it before she understands it. Jun-suk's eyes narrow slightly. Say it properly. A faint smile touches the driver's mouth again. I didn't leak your system, he says. A beat. I designed it. Silence folds in around them. Not sharp. Not explosive. Heavy. Because that means every route, every protection, every decision that felt controlled was already shaped. Jun-suk doesn't react immediately. He studies him. Not like an enemy. Like something that's been beside him longer than it should have. How long, he asks. The driver's gaze flicks briefly toward Hannah. Not assessing. Acknowledging. Long enough that you stopped questioning it, he says. The words don't sound like a threat. They sound like a fact that's been waiting to be said. Hannah feels it settle into her chest. That quiet shift. The one that changes everything without raising its voice. Because it means this was never an intrusion. It was a foundation. Jun-suk exhales slowly. No anger. No visible break. Just recalculation. You built it to replace me. The driver doesn't deny it. Not replace, he says. A pause. Continue. That lands differently. Cleaner. Colder. Jun-suk's jaw tightens just slightly. By removing me. Another pause. The driver doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The silence holds it in place. Hannah watches the space between them. No movement. No escalation. Just distance. Measured. Intentional. Her fingers press into her palm again. That same pressure from before. The moment before action. The moment she once lost. It flickers. That room again. That hesitation. That second too long. Her breath catches. Then steadies. Not again. Jun-suk steps closer. One step. That's all. But it shifts the balance. Everything inside my structure runs through trust, he says quietly. The driver watches him, unblinking. And you turned it into something else. A beat. Something better, the driver replies. No emotion in it. Just certainty. Hannah feels something in her chest tighten. Not from the words. From how easily they sit in the air. Because part of it works. That's the part no one says. Jun-suk looks at him for a long second. Then, he nods. Once. Small. Final. No command follows. No visible signal. Just that. And something shifts behind them. Soft movement. Controlled. Hannah doesn't turn. She doesn't need to. The sound is enough. A step. A breath. Then, nothing. Silence closes over it like it never happened. When Hannah finally looks back, the driver is gone. Not dragged. Not struggling. Just removed. Clean. Efficient. As if he was never meant to remain in the frame. The space he occupied feels wrong now. Too open. Too quiet. Jun-suk doesn't look at the empty space. He turns slightly, gaze moving past it, back toward the street, the reflections, the city that never noticed any of this. It holds, he says, not reassurance. Assessment. Hannah understands. The system. It stabilizes. Because it always does. That's what makes it dangerous. She exhales slowly, but nothing leaves her chest, because something else settles in its place. Permanent. There's no version of her life that exists outside of this now. Not after seeing it. Not after stepping into it. Jun-suk glances at her. You stay, he says. Same tone as before. Same certainty. But it lands differently now. Not a command. A recognition. Hana nods. Small. But it carries weight this time. Not because she has no choice. Because she made one. They stand there for a moment longer. No one speaks. The city hum creeps back and around them. Distant traffic, faint music from somewhere down the block. The low buzz of something ordinary continuing untouched. Hannah's gaze drifts across the glass windows, the polished surfaces, the reflections layered over reflections. She watches them carefully. Angles, movement, stillness. Her hand lifts slightly, unconscious, adjusting her sleeve. The fabric brushes against her wrist. And for a second, she notices it. The absence. No watch. No ticking. Just skin. Still. Quiet. Her hand lowers. Jun-suk steps toward the car again. The door opens. Waits. Hannah looks once more at the empty space where the driver stood. Then at the reflection in the glass beside it. Her own face looks back. Uninterrupted this time. No delay. No misalignment. Just stillness. But behind it, the city moves. Constant. Unseen. She holds that for a second longer than necessary. Then gets in. The door closes with a soft, final sound. Outside, the glass catches the streetlight. And for a brief moment, something shifts in the reflection. Not a person. Not a movement. Just a shape that doesn't belong. Gone as soon as it appears. The street returns to normal. Empty. Unaware.